Big talking. If you're gonna be a head coach, you ain't worried about that kind of stuff, man. Come on, like you can't be focused on things like if you're focused on things like that, then you're not ready to win.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today, my guest host all week, continuing to do an outstanding job on this Throwdown Thursday, is Captain for Life, Will Cotton. Will, how you doing, buddy?
Feeling great.
All right. So on today's show, segment one, we're going to keep talking about coaches, and we're going to always start with Coach Prime in this situation. In segment two, LSU cheats. So we'll talk a little bit about that. That will get you ready for our college previews. And in segment three, we'll have some draft talk from the college perspective. But first, Coach Prime, get well soon. Colorado football coach Deion Sanders had successful surgery last week to fix blood clots in his leg, according to his own Instagram post. Coach Sanders, who's 55, said he expects to be released from the hospital shortly. So by this time, he should be home recuperating. The procedure was for a blood clot in his left thigh and another one in the same leg below the knee. Sanders also has said he has a blood clot in his right leg that doctors was going to get to soon. He is entering his first season as head coach of Colorado. A lot of talk has been about his health. Colorado's first game is September 2nd at TCU. I think I'm taking TCU. But Will, any thoughts about Coach Prime and his cloud of health concern?
As somebody who takes blood thinners, who is very familiar with blood clots, and my father and my friends and things like that, take your medicine, Prime. If you ever come across this podcast and you're listening and you make this one, take your medication, man, because that is going to be the difference between you and continue to have your leg and foot moving forward. So, God bless you, man. I'm glad you even have the opportunity to have those options, and can't wait to get better and get back on the sidelines, but take your medication, man. Number one.
Yeah, real life is real. So we do wish you the best, Coach Prime. Trent Dilfer, it's not a threat. So tampering is a big deal. Tampering has always been a big deal, but it is even more of an issue now. It's a hot button issue in college sports. Several prominent coaches have spoken out about transfers and tampering, but first-year University of Alabama Birmingham coach Trent Dilfer is prepared to go the route of full announcing and calling out. During a recent appearance, he sent an impassioned message to any opposing coach, hoping to entice his players into the transfer portal and away from the UAB Blazers program. And I quote, "By the way, come try to get my guys. I dare you. I got a pretty big platform that I can step on. And if I find you in my kids' DMs, and if I find you talking to the high school coaches about my kids, if they're on my roster, I'm going to call your ass out." He said that. He used to work for ESPN. He's got friends in the media. Pitt's coach has been upset about it by losing Jordan Addison to USC. Will, what do you think about the big, bold talk from Trent Dilfer?
A lot of loud talk, big talking. If you're going to be a head coach, you ain't worried about that kind of stuff, man. Come on. Like, you can't be focused on things like, if you're focused on things like that, then you're not ready to win. I think you're not ready to win. It shouldn't even be a comment. Look, you should tell, like, hey, and I'll keep it real. I'll keep it 100%. You ain't gonna catch too many people trying to poach UAB. Like, and if, it is what it is. Like, it's, I'm not being disrespectful or anything like that. Like, I'm sure, like, people are just salivating by UAB, just like, man, I can't wait till the football players come and I can poach one over to LSU or poach one over here in Georgia. Like, but what it will say is, it is kind of where he's standing with his team, standing with the organization and the university, and he's kind of put a fence around his yard, and he's saying, look, this is my yard, and don't you come in my yard asking for this and trying to do things. And he's owning the program, and I like that. So I like the energy, but a lot of talk, a lot of rah rah rah, not a lot of all that other stuff.
Okay. Speaking of LSU, before we get to segment 2, LSU's coach Brian Kelly is the latest coach to give his thoughts on the current state of name, image, and likeness in college football. And he sounds like many of them as he calls for a federal top-down NIL regulation to replace the current patchwork of state laws. Here's the quote: "College athletics is at a crossroad if this doesn't get fixed." Brian Kelly also questions, where's Title IX in all of this? Where are Division II sports? Where are Division III sports? If every state is tailoring bills to their own self-interest rather than to the health of college athletics as a whole, that's not going to work. Last month, Kelly was among a group of college presidents, conference commissioners, and coaches who traveled to Washington, D.C. to lobby for federal NIL regulation. He said we needed to do something. You have senators like Tommy Tuberville, who was a former head coach at Ole Miss, Auburn, and Texas Tech and Cincinnati as a senator. He's trying to get this done. Several proposals have been discussed, but no official legislation has been brought to the Senate floor. Brian Kelly is hoping to see something materialize over the next couple of months. Will, what are your thoughts on Brian Kelly joining in the need for a national NIL legislation?
I think they needed it. I think, the right voices are out here saying that we need some sort of policy. And if we go to look other older podcast seasons that I've done, you've said that it does need legislation. It does need policy. It does need rules. I'm just saying it's kind of hard to do it now once the cat's out the bag. But again, the one thing that everyone should kind of know what's going on is if you're going to have conversations about NIL, include the players, include people who are the same age, because I just don't think that age doesn't really translate what's going on. I think they had the same on in the Congress when they were talking about TikTok, and they were asking questions that were ridiculous for someone in my generation, but for them they were like, well. So I think the conversation should definitely open up, but I think they should include more people, and definitely the young athletes and the young people advocates who can. I think you should advocate. I think you should get. I think they should put you. That is my nomination right now.
And I will accept if called upon. I will serve. But to go to that point, and people do disagree with me, and that's okay. We're the odd coaches. We don't do so with noise. I am a firm fan of structure, and that's just boundaries. What are the rules of engagement? You have to create guardrails, because without that, we don't know when you've done something wrong. Discipline, which is accountability, if then, and then high levels of help. So once you get the stakeholders to the table, and yes, the stakeholders should include the student athlete advisory committee. Every school has a SAC, and they have elected student members representing students. Then you can create something. But I have no issue with a national eligibility center, because we have that. So if you go through compliance training every year, which we all do, and you create some type of mechanism that the student athlete advisory council has had some type of say in, then it makes it a little easier. But as the Articles of Confederation showed you, having individual state rules, good luck with that. That didn't work historically. But we will definitely keep our eyes out and our ears open. So finally, this segment, West Virginia has had a challenging basketball situation since the end of the season, since that Maryland loss. But they have found a temporary solution to replace departed men's basketball coach Bob Huggins. The school announced last week that it is elevating assistant men's coach Josh Eilert to head coach for the 23-24 season. Athletic director Ren Baker said the timing of Huggins' departure factored into elevating Eilert to an interim role, which should have happened. You should not have done a national search. You should have done this in-house. So he has been on the staff in various roles since 2007. He's been a full-time assistant since July of 2022, after serving various roles in basketball operations and video coordinator. This move should pretty much help solidify some, not all, players staying. He's worked with Bob Huggins for some time. They did assemble one of the country's best transfer classes. Any thoughts on the interim coach before I talk about being an interim?
Probably the best new that they could do. I mean, you're going into summer. There are probably not a names out there available anymore. At least that would be enough to like jump out there. So give him a chance. It's going to be at the end of the day, coach. It'll be cheap. It'll be nice and cheap, and the streamline is probably the best. It's probably the best situation for West Virginia. You know what I'm saying? That sustain, they can still win. So good move, but I don't think that's the long-term plan. But they did what they had to do.
Yeah, I have worked with an interim principal. I have been in acting something. And the advice we give West Virginia, go through your full process this year and then let everyone move on. Short term, this is the best deal. But for midterm and long term, as you try to expand your reach in the Big 12, that's not going to work out for you. So again, just advice. You can take it or leave it. And speaking of that, we're going to leave this segment. And in segment 2, we're going to talk about LSU's findings and what happened with them. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
The CKA SAVE Project is an industry leader in advocating for student-athlete, academic, and athletic needs. Through academic and athletic enrichment, the CKA SAVE Project is on the forefront of the issues facing 21st century student-athletes. As student-athletes continue to struggle to find a better balance between academic and athletic success, the CKA SAVE Project offers academic and athletic services to support student-athlete academic success, including academic skills assessment, academic and athletic consulting, academic monitoring, academic and athletic workshops. For more information or to schedule a free consultation, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 2. This just in, LSU Chiefs. The LSU football program have been charged with 3 violations stemming from a wide-ranging ruling from the NCAA's Independent Resolution Panel, IRP, handed down last week that also included the men's basketball program. As part of the ruling, the football program received a level 1 violation, a level 2 violation, and a level 3 violation. Not only was LSU hit with a 3-year probation sentence, which is set to end September 21st, 2023, but the football team was forced to vacate 37 of its wins from the 2012 through 2015 season due to the level 1 violation. Vacating victories is significant as it drops former coach, the Mad Hatter himself, Les Miles' career record to 108-73 with a winning percentage of .597, which means he no longer meets the criteria to enter the College Football Hall of Fame candidate, because you need a 60% career winning percentage. The Tigers must also forfeit 2 bowl wins. I don't know what that means because they played the bowl and they spent the money. So I guess they just refund the money.
They get the banner back.
Okay. According to the NCAA release, the level 1 violation dates back to 2012 when a representative of LSU athletics interests paid the father of a prospective athlete a total of $180,000 over a 5-year span as a part of an embezzlement scheme. Nobody's that good. Hey, I'm telling you, nobody's that good. The athlete enrolled at LSU, competed from 2012 to 2016. The representative has been disassociated from the program for 10 years. The other violations were committed under former coaching staffs, and the university already self-imposed punishments that the NCAA found adequate. Those included a postseason ban from 2020-2021 season, a reduction of 8 football scholarships from 2021-2022, a fine of $5,000 plus 0.5% of its average football budget, and vacated wins in which the ineligible athlete competed from 2012 to 2016. The level 2 violation seems to stem from former LSU wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr., who distributed cash payouts to players on the field during the 2020 college football national championship game in New Orleans, which we all saw, which is crazy. Okay. Beckham gave 4 student athletes approximately $2,000 in impermissible benefits, which part of the act is being caught on camera and posted on social media. The final violation states that former coach Ed Orgeron had impermissible contact with a 2020 football prospect during a January 2019 evaluation period. As part of the probation, LSU has to inform prospective student athletes that is on probation and file annual compliance reports to the NCAA regarding implementation of pre-described penalties and monitoring of its representatives of athletic interests. Well, it seems that no one cares. Can you tell me from the regular person perspective what you think about level 1, level 2, and level 3 violations at LSU?
Well, people only care when you're not good anymore. And LSU is 2 years removed from, or I think 2 or 3 years now from like really winning the national championship with Burrow. And as soon as now that they're not winning, guess all this stuff comes out. Same with Georgia. Remember we talked about Georgia maybe like last week? Nobody cared when everybody was getting all those DUIs and crazy driving and street racing, all that stuff. But hey, guess what? Soon as Georgia starts losing and they go back down, people start talking about it, and it'll become a big thing, and the sanctions will happen. So I mean, it happens, man. I mean, you know, these teams are crooked. You know, how they operate, how they do things. I mean,
the opinions expressed does not necessarily represent management.
Agreed. That's fair. But they know they know what they're doing out there, and they're just like, hey, if I can just get a championship, or and the crazy thing is his winning percentage for Les Miles is only 597. So it's not even crazy to say if he were to go somewhere and he played and he has a couple 10-0 win championships or undefeated championships, you're right back in there. You know what I'm saying? You're right back in there. So it's silly, man. They're trying to, it's like, it's like, it's a joke. It's a joke.
Okay. All right, fans, beginning July 31st through August 18th, we will begin airing our now annual summer tradition of college and pro football season preview episodes. As we begin preparing for those shows, we are taking a deep dive into players and teams as we prepare to discuss things that are strictly for entertainment purposes only. This week, we will discuss college teams stepping up this season. So, Will, I do season-long win totals, and last year I did pretty well. This year, trying to do better. So here's some teams that I think are going to step up this year. Let me know if you agree or disagree. Texas A&M, Miami, Michigan State, Auburn, Iowa State, Nebraska, Arizona, and Virginia Tech. These are the teams I think will be a little bit better than they were, and I'm looking closely at their schedules. Agree or disagree?
I'll agree. I'll have to see about Arizona and maybe Nebraska, but the rest seem like, I agree with those.
Yeah, Mel Tucker's better win this year because he got that $90 million deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Jimbo better win this year because he got the posse outside waiting for him.
They're ready.
And then I think Matt Rule's going to do a good job at Nebraska.
For sure. He should. We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
And then teams I think will take a step back this season for whatever reason: Duke, Illinois, Mississippi State, Purdue, and TCU. Agree or disagree?
I will agree, and I want to include the Florida Gators. It's going to get really ugly for them.
You think so?
Oh yeah, they're not. I don't even know. It's like they're not even trying. It's not even like they're trying. So I would include the Florida Gators.
I got to check that over under on the Florida Gators. Now that you've mentioned that, you have sparked my interest, sir. All right. So in segment 3, fans, we're going to look at the NBA draft from the college perspective. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
The high school and college academic and athletic landscape is changing. The growing number of college transfers, as well as student athletes being able to profit off the use of their name, image, and likeness, has given student athletes the freedom and power to make life-changing decisions. That is why it is important for student athletes to be properly informed throughout the decision-making process. The difference between success and failure is often measured not by yards, but by inches, and even the most successful coaches and players use outside independent consultants to help improve their decision-making, which improves their results. That is what the CKA SAVE project would like to do for student athletes across the country, improve their academic and athletic results. Our academic and athletic consulting services assist student athletes with the college decision-making process. The CKA team of former high school and college coaches can provide student athletes an independent assessment of their academic and athletic skills to assist student athletes in their college decision-making process. Let the CKA team evaluate your academic and athletic ability to assist you in finding the right fit for your academic and athletic career. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Yacht Coaches Podcast. That is segment 3. We're going to break down the NBA draft based on college conferences. So, Will, the SEC had 10 players selected. The Big Ten had 8 players selected. The ACC and the Big East had 5 players selected. The Big 12 and the Pac-12 had 4. The AAC and the WCC had 3. The MAC, the Southern, Missouri Valley, and the A-10 all had 1 player selected. I have on the screen for Will the players involved in the selection. What do you think this says about the current state of college basketball, sir? What do you think?
It's that the state of college basketball is becoming a lot more parity. I think talent is really going everywhere. You know, talents are and I think NIL and exposure and the internet, and I think that helps with a lot of guys as well. But I just think there are more chances everywhere. You know, guys aren't, teaming up to go to Duke. Guys aren't teaming up to go to UNC anymore. I mean, they're going all these other places, and it's good. I mean, it's been good for basketball. I think it's been good for the NBA. You're getting a lot of crap for young players, but I think they get a lot of young and matured players sometimes, you know what I'm saying, who stay maybe, sophomore and juniors, who stay in, maybe the MAC division or Southern. So, yeah, I think it's great for everyone in terms of not having and it's great for college basketball. I mean, look, we had one of the, even though, viewership didn't go bad, but I think as a basketball fan, I think all basketball fans really enjoyed the Final Four. I think it was fun for us in terms of if you watch the game and you like the games and not just, worry about the name. But yeah, I think parity is always going to work. I mean, every year, you need that to kind of, give it a little boost. You can go back to your traditional, blue bloods if you want to, but every now and again, you need to kind of get things. And I think it's where things are good right now. I like it like that.
Well, one thing I'm looking at, and I'm looking at it by the numbers. SEC had 10 players drafted. The SEC has invested in athletics, and they have the money to do so. The Big Ten have invested in athletics. So 18 of those players came from the SEC to the Big Ten. The ACC and the Big East, they've got some questions to answer. The ACC is in a position where, financially speaking, they're not going to grow that much over the next decade. It's kind of real that way. And the Big East is a basketball-centered conference, and they're comfortable with that. But UConn might leave them, and that would be a big loss because UConn is being looked at by, wait for it as we step lower, the Big 12. The Big 12 has invested a lot of money because they just got a lot of money in, and the Pac-12. So the Big 12 has 4 draft picks. I think that number is going to go up. Pac-12 had 4. In the next couple of years, I think that number may go down.
Mhm.
And then you have the American Conference, which has invested. Then you have the West Coast Conference. Well, if Gonzaga, who is being courted also by the Big 12, leaves, where does that leave the West Coast Conference? Because those are Gonzaga players. And then you've got the MAC, Southern, Missouri Valley, A10. A10 is a little disappointing. They should have better talent. They
Players.
should have
Yeah, they
better
should.
players because they're a basketball only conference too. And they've made some recent hires that we'll be curious to see how that works out. So as I look at it, and we give advice to high school players who aspire to play in the NBA, there's nothing wrong with the college route. Being on a college campus, as we have said, there's no negative to going to college. There is nothing bad.
Right.
You get to meet all types of people. I went to Bowie State. I went to Lincoln University. I met people who have shaped my life, and it has nothing to do with sport. My college roommate is one of my closest friends, bless his heart. He's been an elementary school teacher for as long as I've been a high school teacher and a secondary school teacher. The people that I've met, the professors, the interaction, just to sit in the quad and people watch. And there's just something there that I think is being understated and undervalued.
Mhm.
So again, run your own race, figure out what's best for you, but there is no downside to a college experience. Okay, there is no downside to it. So as we close, again, Will, a lot going on this in college athletics. Anything you'd like to say before we wrap up?
Oh man, we need something to happen. I'm just watching golf and baseball. I need something else to happen. I love them, but I need something else to happen.
NBA Summer League will start soon, and then
Yeah.
college camps will start in about a month. So just do your prep for our preseason shows, and we're going to have some fun with that, strictly for entertainment purposes only.
Oh yeah.
So on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, Captain for Life, Will Cotton, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The Odd Coaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches podcast.